I stared at my phone screen, the numbers glowing in the darkness of my studio apartment. Credit card balance. Minus $8,436.72. Minimum payment due. $847. Days until payment 3. My hands were shaking. I'd been laid off from my marketing coordinator job 2 weeks ago. Budget cuts, they'd said. Nothing personal. But it felt very personal when I was escorted out with a box of my desk belongings and 2 weeks severance that had already been spent on rent. My name is Riley, I'm 28, and I'd been living paycheck to paycheck in Chicago while trying to build a career. The credit card debt had accumulated slowly. Student loans didn't cover everything. Moving to the city was expensive, professional clothes cost money, networking events required funds I didn't have. I'd been telling myself I'd pay it down once I got promoted. Once I got my annual raise. Once I had a little breathing room. Except now I had no job, no savings, and a credit card bill that would wreck my credit score if I missed the payment. I scrolled through my contacts with trembling fingers. My friends were all in the same financial boat. Young, struggling, barely making it. My father had passed away when I was 12. That left one option. Mom. I hadn't called her in 3 months. Not since Thanksgiving when she'd spent the entire dinner comparing me to my older sister Adriana. Your sister just bought a house, she'd said. Such a smart investment at her age. The implication was clear. Unlike you, who rents a shoebox and can't get your life together. But I was desperate. Drowning. And she was my mother. I hit dial before I could talk myself out of it. She answered on the 4th ring. Riley, is something wrong? Just hearing her voice made the tears start. Mom, I need help. I lost my job and I have this credit card payment due, and I don't know what to do, Ann. Slow down. You lost your job. When? 2 weeks ago. They laid off my whole department. Have you been looking for new positions? Yes, but Mom, I need help right now. I have a payment due in 3 days and I don't have the money, and if I miss it. How much? I closed my eyes. $847. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Riley, she finally said, her voice taking on that tone I knew too well. How did you let it get this bad? I didn't let it get anywhere. I was managing until I lost my income. Your sister has never once asked me for money. She's financially responsible. She has savings. She plans ahead. There it was. 3 sentences in, and we were already comparing me to perfect Adriana. Mom, I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for a loan. I'll pay you back as soon as I get another job. Riley, I think this might be a good learning experience for you. My breath caught. What? You're almost 30 years old. You need to learn to handle your own problems. If I bail you out now, you'll never learn financial responsibility. I'm financially responsible. I pay my bills. I just lost my job during a recession. You accumulated $8,000 in credit card debt. That's not responsible. It's not $8,000. The minimum payment is $800. How much total do you owe on that card? I didn't want to answer, but she waited. $8,400, I whispered. $8,400. She said it like a judgment. Riley, that's money you spent that you didn't have. Now you're in a hole because you lived beyond your means. I lived in one of the most expensive cities in the country trying to build a career. I had to buy professional clothes, pay for transportation, network. Your sister managed to do all that without going into debt. I was crying openly now. Are you going to help me or not? Another pause. Then, no, sweetie. I'm not. This is something you need to figure out yourself. Maybe it's time to consider moving back home, getting a job here in Ohio, living within your means. I can't move back. My career is here. What career? You just got laid off. The words hit like a physical blow. I have to go, I managed to say. Riley, I'm doing this because I love you. I hung up. I sat in the dark for an hour after that call, crying until I had no tears left. Then I pulled myself together and did what I should have done first. I looked at my options. Option 1. Miss the payment, wreck my credit score, get hit with late fees and interest rate increases that would make the debt even worse. Option 2. Sell everything I owned. I looked around my tiny studio. Laptop, needed for job searching. Furniture, mostly secondhand, worth maybe $200 total. Clothes, professional wardrobe I'd need for interviews. Option 3. Borrow from loan sharks. I'd seen enough movies to know how that ended. Option 4. Ask my sister. I stared at Adriana's contact info. We weren't close. She was 5 years older, perpetually successful, and had always made me feel like the family disappointment. But she had money, and maybe, just maybe, she'd help where Mom wouldn't. I texted her instead of calling. "Hey, can we talk? It's important." She responded immediately. "What's wrong? Can you call me?" My phone rang 30 seconds later. "Riley, what happened?" Her voice was concerned, not judgmental. It caught me off guard. "I lost my job 2 weeks ago. I have a credit card payment due in 3 days that I can't make. I called Mom and she said no. I know we're not super close, but I'm desperate and I thought maybe. How much do you need?" $847. "I'll pay you back as soon as I can, I promise." "Riley, stop. Of course I'll help. Give me your credit card info. I'll pay it right now." I couldn't speak. Couldn't process that it was this easy. "Riley, you still there?" "Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much." "It's fine. We're sisters. This is what family does." I gave her the information. 5 minutes later, I got a confirmation email. Payment processed. Credit card balance. $7,589.72. "Adriana, I'll pay you back. I'll get a job and don't worry about it right now. Focus on finding work." "But Riley, can I ask you something?" "Anything. Why did you let it get to $8,400 before asking for help?" "Not her too. I was managing. I had a job and a plan to pay it down. Then I got laid off. I'm not judging. I'm asking because I've been there. That stopped me." "What?" "After college, I had $12,000 in credit card debt. I was so ashamed. I worked 3 jobs to pay it off, and I never told anyone, including Mom. It took me 2 years. You had debt, but Mom always talks about how financially responsible you are. Because she doesn't know. And I never told her because I knew exactly what she'd say. The same thing she said to you." I sat down on my bed processing this. "So when she compares me to you, she's comparing you to a version of me that doesn't exist. The perfect daughter she imagined, not the real person who struggled just like you're struggling. Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I was embarrassed. And because by the time we might have had that conversation, I'd already paid it off and convinced myself it never happened." "But Riley, listen to me. You're going to get through this. You're smart and capable, and you will find another job. What if I don't? Then you'll find something else. But you will land on your feet because you're a survivor. Just like me." After we hung up, I sat there feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks, hope. Not because my immediate crisis was solved, though that helped, but because I discovered my sister was human, flawed, someone who'd struggled and survived. I opened my laptop and started applying for jobs with renewed energy. Marketing coordinator positions, copywriting gigs, social media management, anything remotely related to my skills. By midnight, I'd sent out 27 applications. By morning, I had 3 responses requesting interviews. And for the first time since getting laid off, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was swimming. The first interview was a disaster. I was so nervous I forgot the name of the company's main product. The second was better but ended with "we'll be in touch," in that tone that meant they wouldn't be. The third interview was with a small digital marketing agency called Catalyst Creative. The owner, Maria, was a woman in her 40s who'd started the agency after being laid off from a corporate job 10 years earlier. "I see you were recently let go," she said, looking at my resume. "Yes. Budget cuts. They eliminated the entire department. How are you doing with that?" I could have lied, given the professional answer about seeing it as an opportunity for growth. Instead, I found myself being honest. "I'm struggling, financially and emotionally, but I'm working through it." Maria nodded. "I was unemployed for 8 months when I was your age. Burned through my savings, maxed out my credit cards, moved back in with my parents at 32. It was humiliating. What changed? I stopped waiting for someone to give me permission to succeed. I started this agency with $500 and a dream. It took 3 years before I could pay myself a decent salary. But I built something that was mine." She offered me the job that afternoon. Marketing coordinator, same title as before, but 20% less salary. I took it anyway. That evening, I called Adriana to tell her the news. "That's amazing. When do you start?" "Monday." "And Adriana, about the money I owe you." "We'll figure it out. Maybe $100 a month? Whatever you can manage." "I can do more than that. I'll budget everything in." "Riley, breathe. You just got a job making less than before. Don't sacrifice your ability to live just to pay me back quickly. I'd rather you pay me slowly and stay afloat than drown trying to pay me fast. It was such a stark contrast to Mom's response that I couldn't help but bring it up. Mom hasn't called since I hung up on her. She won't. She thinks she's teaching you a lesson by making you sit with your choices. What lesson? That I can't count on her. That's the lesson she taught me too. It's why I don't ask her for help anymore. Not because I don't need it, but because the cost is too high. What cost? Having to hear about how disappointed she is. How I should have done better. How I'll never measure up to whatever standard she set. Adriana paused. She loves us, Riley. But her love comes with conditions we can't always meet. After we hung up, I thought about that. Conditional love. The idea that I had to earn my mother's support by being perfect, by never struggling, by having my life together in ways that weren't realistic for someone my age and my situation. I started my new job the following Monday. Maria was demanding but fair. The work was interesting. My coworkers were kind. It wasn't my dream job, but it was a job, and I was grateful. I created a strict budget. Rent, utilities, minimum loan payments, groceries, and $150 toward Adriana each month. Everything else was cut. No eating out, no entertainment subscriptions, no new clothes. It was hard. Some days I felt like I was barely surviving. But I was surviving. And slowly, the debt number started going down. 6 weeks after starting at Catalyst, Mom finally called. I wanted to check in on you. How are you doing? I'm fine. I have a job. I'm managing. See, I knew you could figure it out. I wanted to scream. To tell her that I'd figured it out despite her. Not because of her. That Adriana had helped when she wouldn't. That her tough love had just been abandonment dressed up as a life lesson. Instead, I said, yeah, I figured it out. Good. Your sister mentioned you're doing well at your new position. Of course Adriana had told her. Because unlike Mom, Adriana actually checked in on me. Called to see how I was doing. Offered support without judgment. I'm working hard, I said. I'm proud of you for pulling yourself up. I wasn't pulled up. I was climbing. There's a difference. Chapter 4. The Shift 700 Words. 3 months into my new job, Maria called me into her office. I immediately assumed I was being let go again. Instead, she offered me a promotion. You've been doing excellent work. I'm creating a senior coordinator position. 20% raise, more responsibility, small team to manage. I accepted before she finished the sentence. The raise meant I could breathe a little easier. I increased my payment to Adriana to $300 a month. I even managed to save a small emergency fund. Just $500, but it felt like wealth after having nothing. Adriana and I started having weekly phone calls. Real conversations about our lives, our struggles, our victories. I learned she was in therapy working through her relationship with Mom. I learned she'd had a miscarriage the year before and hadn't told anyone. I learned she felt as much like a disappointment as I did, just in different ways. Mom called me last week. Adriana told me during one of our calls. Asked why I wasn't pregnant yet. Said my biological clock was ticking. You're 33. I know, but apparently that's ancient in her world. She keeps sending me articles about fertility after 35. That's awful. It's Mom. She means well, but her way of showing love is pointing out everything we're doing wrong. I'd never thought about it that way, but Adriana was right. Mom's version of love was constant correction, constant comparison, constant disappointment masked as wanting better for us. Thanksgiving approached. Mom called both of us separately to ask if we were coming home for the holiday. I don't think I can afford the trip, I told her honestly. Flights to Ohio were expensive, and I was still climbing out of debt. Riley, it's Thanksgiving. Family comes together. I know, but your sister is coming. Of course she was. Perfect Adriana, who could afford everything. Except when I called Adriana later, she said, I'm not actually going. I told Mom I had work commitments. Why? Because I can't take another holiday of being interrogated about my uterus while you get questioned about your career and finances. I love Mom, but I don't love who I become around her. What did she say? She was disappointed. But she's always disappointed. I'm tired of trying to make her not disappointed. I thought about that for a long time. Then I called Mom back. I've decided not to come home for Thanksgiving either. What? Why? I thought you said it was about money. It's not about money. It's about the fact that being around you makes me feel like a failure. Every conversation is a comparison to Adriana. Every achievement is met with, "But what about this other thing you haven't done yet?" "I can't be enough for you, Mom, so I'm going to stop trying." "That's not fair. I'm your mother. I push you because—" "Yeah, I want you to succeed." "No, you push because my success reflects on you. And when I struggle, you take it personally instead of helping me. I offered to let you move back home. That wasn't help. That was you wanting me to give up my independence so you could control my choices. There's a difference." The line went quiet. Then, "Is this really how you feel?" "Yes." "Then I don't know what to say." "You could say you're sorry. You could acknowledge that refusing to help me when I was desperate was cruel. You could admit that comparing me to Adriana constantly is damaging. You could try to understand that I needed a mother, not a life coach. I was being a mother. I was teaching you responsibility. You were punishing me for not being perfect." More silence. Then she hung up. I called Adriana immediately. "I just told Mom off. How do you feel?" "Terrified. Relieved. Guilty. Free." "That sounds about right." We spent Thanksgiving together, Adriana flying to Chicago instead of going home. We cooked a small meal in my studio apartment, drank cheap wine, and talked about everything we'd never talked about before. It was the best Thanksgiving I'd ever had. 6 months after that call with Mom, I'd paid Adriana back completely. My credit card debt was down to $4,200. I had $2,000 in savings. I was managing. More importantly, I was happy. Maria had given me another raise and more responsibility. I was leading client accounts, mentoring new hires, building something I was proud of. Mom and I hadn't spoken since Thanksgiving. She'd texted a few times, short, impersonal messages like, "Hope you're well." I'd responded politely but distantly. Then one Tuesday evening, she called. "Riley, we need to talk." "About what?" "About everything. Can we meet?" "I'll fly to Chicago." "Why?" "Because I've been in therapy for the past 3 months, and my therapist thinks I owe you an apology." I was so shocked I almost dropped my phone. "You're in therapy?" "Your sister suggested it. Actually, she insisted on it. Said she wouldn't come to Christmas unless I worked on my issues with control and conditional love." Those were her exact words. I could picture Adriana saying exactly that. And my therapist helped me see that I've been projecting my own fears and failures onto you and your sister. That my criticism comes from my own insecurity about how I've lived my life. "Okay. That's it. Just okay. I'm listening. Keep going." She took a deep breath. "When you called me desperate and crying, asking for help, I should have helped you. You're my daughter. You were in crisis. Instead, I made it about teaching you a lesson because I was embarrassed that you were struggling. I was worried about what it said about me as a mother if my daughter was in debt. It said nothing about you. It said I was navigating a difficult economy in an expensive city. I know that now. But in that moment, all I could think was that I'd failed you somehow. That if I'd been a better mother, you wouldn't be in that position. So you punished me for your feelings of failure?" "Yes. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I sat with that for a moment. It was the apology I'd wanted. But it didn't erase the months of struggle, the shame I'd felt, the moment I'd needed her most and she'd turned me away. "Thank you for apologizing," I said finally. "But Mom, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to forget that when I was drowning, you watched. Adriana threw me a rope. You gave me a lecture. I know. And I need you to understand that our relationship is different now. I love you, but I don't trust you the way I used to. Can we rebuild that trust? Maybe, but it's going to take time. And it's going to require you to stop comparing me to Adriana. Stop making your love conditional on me meeting standards I'll never achieve. Stop punishing me for being human. I can do that. I want to do that." We talked for another hour. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. She told me about her therapy sessions, the things she was learning about herself, the patterns she was trying to break. I told her about my job, my life, my slow climb out of debt. I told her about my friendship with Adriana, how we'd become close through shared struggle. "I'm glad you have each other," she said. "I'm glad she helped when I didn't." Me too. A year later, I paid off the last of my credit card debt. Adriana sent me flowers. Mom sent a card with a check inside. Not to help with bills, but as a celebration gift. I framed the card instead of cashing the check. Because it represented something more important than money. It represented growth, acknowledgement, change. My relationship with Mom would never be perfect. We'd never be best friends. But we were learning to be mother and daughter in a healthier way. And I'd learned something valuable. That the people who refuse to help you when you're drowning aren't always the villains. Sometimes they're just broken people doing the best they can with their own damage. The real victory wasn't paying off the debt. It was learning that I could survive without their approval. That I could build a life based on my own standards, not theirs. That when I'd been desperate and alone, I'd found my own strength. And my sister's love. And eventually my mother's growth. But most importantly, I'd found myself.